first thing I want to get into this week is going to be the NBA Finals. Obviously, that happened while I have been gone. While I took my week off, the NBA Finals was kind of just wrapping up. And so now I get to talk about it here instead of last week. So I do apologize for it taking a little bit longer than it usually does. But the NBA Finals, I will say, went pretty much exactly how I thought it would. I think I actually told some people that I thought that the Heat were going to win, the Nuggets were going to beat the Heat in 5 games. I assumed the Heat would steal like Game 3 or Game 4 or something like that. They ended up winning Game 2, but, push comes to shove. That doesn't really matter all that much. Still got it. Nuggets in 5 was my prediction, and that's exactly how it ended up panning out. Not really a whole lot to talk about, quite frankly, with the finals. I mean, I don't really think anything happened that surprised me. I don't think really anything happened that truly made me second guess what was going on. I will say when the Heat found a way to win Game 2, I did have a couple of thoughts where I sat there and went, maybe the Heat do have a little bit better of a chance than I thought. They won in Denver. They outplayed them in the fourth quarter like crazy, and it was just one of those things where I thought, maybe if the Heat can sustain this, but the Nuggets bounced right back and pretty much stepped on their throats and didn't even give them any sort of hope. And the Nuggets were just better. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. The Heat didn't have enough talent, I thought, to really be in the finals. I really thought the Celtics should have won in 7. They really should have won quicker than that, but unfortunately they kind of blew it. So it is what it is. But the Heat were just out-talented at every level of that series. Jokic, guys, Nikola Jokic is he's an animal. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable what he's doing right now in the world of basketball. I know in my lifetime I have never seen a center do what he's doing, and I'm not sure basketball as a whole has ever seen a center do what he's doing. I know towards the end of his career, Wilt Chamberlain was a guy that was a good passer and a facilitator, but I mean, you're talking about a guy in his prime in current NBA basketball that's averaging 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists a night, and basically averaged a triple-double in the playoffs. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing as a center. But nonetheless, the Nuggets winning did not shock me at all. I want to say congratulations to them, obviously, for winning. And congratulations to the Heat. I mean, I feel like now at this point, as long as Jimmy Butler is there, no matter what seed they are, they should be a favorite to win the East in the playoffs. Because you saw it this year, right? Everybody wrote them off, including me. I didn't think the Heat had any chance. They almost didn't even make the playoffs. They had to win the second play-in game and make a huge fourth quarter comeback against the Bulls just to do that, just to make it into the playoffs at all. So you're talking about a team that was 8 minutes, 7 minutes of game time away from not even making the playoffs, and they go to the finals. Last year, basically the same team. They were the 1 seed. So I just don't know, and most people I feel like just don't know what the Heat are going to give you on a night-to-night basis, other than they're going to give you grit, they're going to give you toughness, and they are going to outwork you. And oftentimes that's enough to get you pretty far. Not only in this league, but in life. That's really just the way it is. So, congratulations to Miami, an improbable run to the NBA Finals. Part of me was really hoping that they would win, not because I wanted them to. I didn't, obviously, but I feel like if Jimmy Butler wins a championship, he'll calm down a little bit and stop averaging 75 points a game in the playoffs, although he did not play well in these finals. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. Playoff Jimmy really did not play all that well in the finals, but you know what? One man can only do so much, and he didn't really have a whole lot of help, quite frankly. Bam Adebayo played pretty well in a few of the games, but you need a lot more than that if you're going to win the NBA Finals. So, Yeah, congratulations to Denver. Obviously, Nikola Jokic wins Finals MVP. Um, I have heard a lot of people now talking about how Jokic should have won regular season MVP. And I don't, I hate that argument. So I hate the argument, not necessarily that I thought that, not necessarily the argument that Jokic should have won. I just can't stand the arguments of if somebody doesn't completely play like out of their minds in the playoffs and they won MVP in the regular season, that means that they shouldn't have won it because it's a regular season award, right? So it just doesn't make sense to me at all. I thought Joel Embiid had a better regular season than Nikola Jokic. Now, Nikola Jokic had a clearly much better team than Joel Embiid had. I mean, on paper, you would think that the 76ers would have been better, but you saw it in the playoffs. They didn't have enough in the playoffs. You know, Tobias Harris just is not the 20-plus point per game scorer he used to be. Tyrese Maxey is a young up-and-coming guard, but he has his flaws on the defensive end and on the offensive end. James Harden is not the same as he once was. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer as far as I'm concerned, whether he wins a championship or not, just based on statistics, based on the fact that he's won MVP. There's all these different reasons why, but he's not the same James Harden as he was, and he played terrible in the playoffs. And if that's your number two, then you're going to struggle in the playoffs. So, yeah, I thought that obviously Jokic had a better team. They were the 1 seed in the West for a reason. Jamal Murray is an absolute animal. Michael Porter Jr. had a great playoff run, and he's obviously big, tall, versatile, can pretty much do anything on the floor. Jeff Green, who's like 5 million years old, was playing well for them. Bruce Brown is great. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been a starter for them all season. I kind of wrote him off. I didn't really think that he had a whole lot to give as a starter, but I mean, he was so important for them defensively and offensively. So, and he also brought championship experience because he's obviously won a championship with the Lakers before. So, I thought the Denver Nuggets were just a better team, and so Joel Embiid winning the MVP, I thought that he had a better season than Nikola Jokic. I know Jokic has had more assists and everything, but I'm one of those guys that I just really wanted Joel Embiid to win one MVP, and I thought if he wasn't going to win it this year and Jokic wins a third MVP in a row, then at this point we are just giving it's like the Shohei Ohtani of basketball, who I'll talk about Shohei Ohtani a little bit later, but you know, Nikola Jokic was turning into the Shohei Ohtani of basketball, which means, you know, hey, this guy's just doing things that nobody else is capable of doing, so we're just going to give him the MVP every year. And I don't think that that's fun. I mean, yeah, it makes sense logistically, but I think that there's, you know, I think that there's a reason why we love the fact that Derrick Rose won the MVP in 2011, even though, let's be honest with ourselves, LeBron James had a much better season statistically than Derrick Rose, but it's the story. It's, you know, the Chicago was the 1 seed, and he was the heart and soul of that team, and he was putting up 30 points a night, and he was making all these highlight plays. Like, I loved it. I really, really did. So, it makes sense. I get it, but there's a reason why we love those stories. There's a reason why, you know, the MVP doesn't go to the best player in baseball or football or basketball every single year. Even though arguably it should, sure. But I think not that it shouldn't go to somebody different every year. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I do think that sometimes people get, you know, kind of voting fatigue of the same person over and over again. And I think that costs people some MVPs. Like Kobe Bryant only won 1 MVP. I think that is criminal. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know how he didn't win MVP more than once in his lifetime, and we pretty much universally consider him a top 5 or top 10 player in NBA history. And he won 1 MVP ever. And Steve Nash, who I love Steve Nash, he was one of my favorite players growing up. Really, he was, truly. He's nowhere near the level of Kobe Bryant, and he's won 2 MVPs. So, like, it's one of those things where, like, you know, it's not perfect, but I'm happy that Joel Embiid won 1 MVP because he deserved it. And I thought he deserved it last year, too. I said publicly on this podcast, I thought Joel Embiid should have won the MVP. but I'm happy he won it this year, and he 100% deserved it. So I hate that argument that people that don't play incredible in the postseason that won MVP don't deserve the MVP. Like, maybe they feel they might not deserve the MVP as an individual, but there's a reason why it's regular season MVP and not everything MVP that you hand out at the end of the season. Because if you, that wouldn't make sense. You know why? Because it would go to the finals MVP every year. So there'd just be a whole nother set of issues there that, oh, you got a finals MVP. Oh, Nikola Jokic is finals MVP. Well, hey, he was second in MVP voting in the regular season anyway. Might as well give it to him. Like, that's what it would be every single year. You know, whoever would win finals MVP, unless it was some role player, like, no offense, like Andre Iguodala who won finals MVP one year, and he would have been nowhere near the MVP conversation. Pretty much every year you're giving it to the finals MVP because it's the best player on the championship team. Most of the time. You know, your LeBrons, your Steph Currys, your Giannis's, your Jokic's, your, you know, whoever it is. So, you know, that's just kind of how I feel there. But getting back to the Nuggets, yeah, they just, I mean, I feel like we all counted them out weirdly. I mean, at least I feel like I did a little bit. I wasn't super worried about the Nuggets, and I would have loved to see the Celtics-Nuggets finals. But I don't think we would have beat them. I mean, just watching the way they played and how ridiculous Jokic played in not only the finals, but especially in the Western Conference Finals, where he was hitting shots that I just was just blowing my mind. Like, it just is incredible what that guy was doing. And Jamal Murray is a bad man. Look, I think because he's been injured so much, we forgot how good he was in the bubble. But he dominated in the playoffs in the bubble. He played out of his mind well for the Nuggets in the postseason. For Jamal Murray did so in the bubble. So, you know, the fact that he's been injured for basically 2 years, I think it really kind of went, you know, pushed him away in the back of our minds and went, oh, whatever, yeah, he's a good player. No, he's real. Like, he steps up in the playoffs. He is not a guy that's going to shrink under the spotlight. I would have loved to have a Jamal Murray on the Celtics this year. I think if we have Jamal Murray on the Celtics this year instead of the cavalcade of point guards that didn't really do a whole lot this year outside of Derek White in the postseason, I think we win the finals. I mean, truly I do. Now, it's obvious, right? You know, you take the second best player on the championship team, put it on your team, and you were in the Eastern Conference Final, you probably win. Yeah, that's fair. But, you know, that's just how I feel. But I do want to kind of talk a little bit, though, just kind of to retransition back to the MVP conversation. So, obviously, Nikola Jokic did not win MVP this year, right? He did win Finals MVP, and he won a championship this year. So, I feel like I do have to address this. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, I do not feel that this conversation should be happening, even though I'm going to have it right now. So I guess I'm a little hypocritical. Fine. But with the way NBA media is at this point, and not just NBA media, but sports media in general, I feel like because Nikola Jokic now has won 2 MVPs, which only a handful of players in the history of basketball have, he has now won a championship. He has now won a Finals MVP. He is still in his prime, and he is doing things on a basketball court that we have not seen people his size do, maybe ever. Do we have to start talking about Jokic already as an all-time great? Now, again, I said this at the beginning, and I will say it again. I do not think we should be having this conversation. But it's food for thought. I personally do not believe he's one of the greatest of all time yet. But if he keeps on this current trajectory, it's going to be tough to say. Now, I will say this. For those of you who are going to put in the comment section or put on social media or whatever that I'm an idiot for saying that and Nikola Jokic is nowhere near one of the greatest players of all time, I want you to keep this in mind. 3 years ago, was it 3 years ago? 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was. When the Milwaukee Bucks won the championship, Giannis was crowned the greatest player in the NBA, the best player in the NBA at that point, probably. And he was considered at that point by many. He's a multiple-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, now an NBA champion and Finals MVP. He was looked at that point as one of the greatest players of all time. Top 25, top 30, top 40, top 50, whatever you want to say. He's already up there, according to people back then. And if you don't believe me, go look it up. What is the difference between Giannis and Jokic? Sure, Giannis is a better defender. I'll give you that. That's fine. Giannis has won Defensive Player of the Year. Jokic hasn't. Okay, all that's fair. But everything else, Jokic is a 2-time MVP. So is Giannis. Jokic has won 1 championship. So has Giannis. Jokic has won 1 Finals MVP. So has Giannis. So if we're going to put Giannis in that conversation, why are we not putting Jokic? For those of you who think neither of them belong, your logic is sound, and I get it. But if you think that Giannis is one of the greatest players of all time, keep in mind that their careers, their meaning Giannis and Jokic obviously, are following similar trajectories. They won an MVP around the same years. They won the finals around their same years in terms of age. I think Jokic is a little bit older than Giannis was when he won his MVPs and finals and stuff. But at the same time, it's pretty close. Jokic is obviously a much different player than Giannis. But at the same time, there's not a whole lot of differences there in terms of accolades outside of Defensive Player of the Year for Giannis. So if that is the separator, so does that mean, not to say that Jokic is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Clearly he's never going to. He's not that he's a bad defender. He's just not that elite of a defender that he'll probably never win Defensive Player of the Year. So, but let's just in a pretend world say he does. Does that mean that he is one of the greatest of all time now? If that's the difference between the two? I don't know. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Food for thought. Let me know in the comments section if you guys think that Jokic is one of the greatest of all time. I say no, not yet. I think he could get there. I think that if he continues to play the way he plays, he probably will be there at some point. But I think right now it's a little bit too early to put the crown on him just yet. But I do think that at some point the NBA media is going to run with it. I haven't seen that they have yet. So maybe they're not going to. Maybe they've come to their senses a little bit. But we'll see. Just wanted to throw that out there. Food for thought a little bit. Hey guys, me again. Thank you so much for watching one of my clips from the Lopes Goes Last podcast. These clips are so much fun to do. I absolutely love making them, and I absolutely love doing them. And this podcast is my baby. So I really want this thing to grow, and I really want it to succeed. So if you did like what you see, please subscribe. Also hit that bell notification so you never miss any one of my episodes or one of my clips like this one. And please do also like and share these videos with your friends and your family so that we can make this thing grow as fast as possible. And I wanted to thank you again so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day.